Have you seen my son anywhere? He was around here somewhere. I never know where that lad's gone. He likes to explore a bit, but he's a good lad. He doesn't get into much mischief. Well, no more than a lad of that age always does. But sometimes, I'll tell you a story about one time. We had heard that Jesus was down in the next village. Now, we hadn't seen Jesus anywhere. We only live in a little place, and who expected somebody like him to come anywhere near us? I mean, after all, he was so famous. You wouldn't think that we would hear things so quickly, but it's amazing. What's said in Jerusalem gets down here within a week. It's amazing. So we'd heard about him. We'd heard about some of the things he'd been doing. You know, healing people and telling stories. So when we heard he was coming, we decided, my son particularly, because he really was interested in Jesus. He was like some big star to him. So he wanted to go and listen, and well, why not? Weather's good. So packed up a bit of something just to eat, and off we went. And then we heard that Jesus had taken a boat out onto the sea and was going away. So why not? Everybody else was going, so we followed him. We followed him around the edge of the sea until he came to land. And we were there waiting. Now, I'm not sure what his friends thought of that, but Jesus was pretty good about it, really. He went up the hill a little bit and we followed. And I settled myself down. By this time, well, half the village was there, so I found my sister and we sat and had a natter. But my son, he was impatient, and he said, I'm just going over there. I said, yeah, go on, there's a little hole there you could squeeze through, go on then. And he did. He squeezed through. He got up right close to Jesus. And it went on all day. Jesus wove his way through the crowds, blessing people and healing people. And my son was there, eyes wide open, watching him the whole time. I could see him because we were up on a bit of a hill. And then as the day passed, we started all looking up at the sky a bit. The sun was going down quite quickly. And actually, walking all the way around that, we had to walk home as well. So we started to think maybe we ought to make a move. And I could see Jesus' friends, they were down there saying the same thing. There they were pointing up at the sky and indicating that the sun was going down, and then they were showing Jesus all these people, because there were a lot of us. I reckon there were about 5,000 men there, plus women and children. It was the biggest crowd I had ever seen. But anyway, there was my boy down there, right next to Jesus, and I could see him waving his arms around as well. Couldn't really hear what was being said, but he was offering, hey, that's our picnic he was offering. It wasn't very big. I mean, what did I put in there? Oh, a couple of fish and some little loaves of bread. But he was offering it to Jesus. I told you, he was kind and compassionate to others. Yeah, not so much his mum. Anyway, there he was. And I watched Jesus take it and smile at him and hold his hands out and bless this little basket that my son had taken to him. And when he blessed it, he told these disciples, could see that because they were waving their arms around, and they came back with other baskets. I guess we weren't the only people who'd turned up with a bit of a picnic for the day. But Jesus started to break the bread and put it in the baskets. And he took the fish and he divided it up. Now, I know how much was in that. There wasn't a lot in that little picnic for me and my son. But Jesus was filling up basketful, loads and loads of baskets full. And he was indicating with his arms to his friends, And they started going round, and one of them came up to us and said, "Go and sit on the ground, break yourself into groups, and we'll bring you some food." Okay, I was hungry by then. And that's what they did. Huge great basket of food. And me and my sister and her family, we all sat down. My son came and joined us, and we ate. We ate more than we would have done normally. And then they started collecting up the baskets. We still had quite a lot left in ours. And my boy, well, he's always helpful, so he jumps up and he took it along and started gathering up food with the others. And he took it back up to Jesus as well. And I could see Jesus thanking him. And then Jesus came with my lad. And he told me what a good boy he is. I knew that really. And Jesus spoke. And that was amazing. I'd never heard anybody quite like him. And then it was time to go home. It was a long walk back, and like all good stories, we went home and went to bed. Oh, here he comes. It's been nice talking to you. Bye. I hope you liked that story today. I'm sure you've heard something like it before, but maybe this one was a little bit of a different telling. Today, if we had used the lectionary, we would have been reading the version that is told by St. Matthew in his Gospel. But actually, this story is in all four Gospels. Mark, Matthew, Luke and John all tell the story. But you know, the story's different in every single one of them. In fact, forget about the little boy's mum. Only the little boy appears in John's Gospel, not the other three at all. In them, they just have some fish and some bread. And did you know there's also the story about the feeding of the 4,000? It's a bit different again, and it appears only in Matthew and Mark's Gospel. But again, even though it was only a few times before, in Matthew and Mark, it says again that the disciples decide to say that they can't possibly feed all these people and they should send them away. But Jesus doesn't. Jesus is kind and compassionate. In the story today, Jesus shows us just that. He's actually feeling very sad, probably angry, upset, because he's just heard that King Herod has killed John the Baptist. And Jesus decides to take out a boat and sail to the other side of the lake to get away from all the people. He just wants to have a bit of peace and quiet. But then, when he gets there, all the people have followed him, walking all round the lake. But does he stay? Send them away. I'm fed up with all of this. I just want some peace and quiet. Of course he doesn't. Jesus is kind. He puts other people first. He has compassion for these people who are looking to be healed. And then, at the end of the day, when the disciples are saying, send them away, Jesus, we haven't got enough to feed them, he shows his compassion again and says, you feed them. And, amazingly, they do. Today's psalm that Tia read, so beautifully, it just tells us about God's compassion. And St. Paul, when he wrote to the Ephesians, he said, be kind and compassionate to one another. At this time, when we're all feeling a little bit odd, maybe we're feeling the pinch as if we haven't got enough money, or we're worried about what the future might bring. Or maybe we're lucky and we're just thinking, wow, now we can go out and reward ourselves because we've been stuck indoors so long. Perhaps this is the time to think about being kind and compassionate to others. Have a think about it. How will your behaviour reflect your kindness and your compassion? And don't forget, whatever little bit you give, God can do wonderful things with it. Amen.